Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on Lockout Tagout. We're joined by Matt today, who is from Brady. He'll give us a little bit more in-depth look at things. But before we start, we'll do some quick introductions and then we'll jump right into it. So with that said, my name is Chuck Franklin. I am the director of EH&S Managed Services here at Arbill. So I've got a little over 28 years in the safety world, and from most of it's in poultry background, but I've been in some other industries as well. Just to give you a little bit of background about Arbill and some of the things that we offer, and one of the things is we call it the holistic safety care solution. So we have all the different types of services available to you to be able to help you get things in line. We also have an LMS system for training. We have an EHS platform to help you keep everything organized. We can also help build written programs, do training, help with inspections, help keep your OSHA logs up to date, all of these sort of things. We can do site assessments, come on site and look at your facility, kind of help you see where those gaps are. And we also have environmental specialists who help with the environmental side. And but lastly, we can come on site and do training, or we can do training virtually. So just a few offerings that we have through our EHS managed services, and we'll have my email and all towards the end. With that said, Brady, Matt, I'm gonna let you kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Brady and let you take over from here.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Lewin. I am currently the product manager for Lockout Tagout at Brady. I've been here about a year now. And previously, I actually worked for a distributor in the safety and security category. I did that. So I did a wide variety. I had about 120,000 SKUs that I covered there. And then before that, I was in the roof edge manufacturing category there as well.
All right, good deal. And basically, Matt's going to cover all the offerings that Brady has, and if you know Lockout Tagout, you know Brady. I mean that's where we order. At least for me, in my 28 years, that's where I've always ordered my Lockout Tagout equipment from. So I'm going to jump right in, and the way this process is going to work is I'm going to cover a lot of the regulation side, and then I'm going to let Matt take over and kind of talk to you about the offerings that Brady has. So let's jump right in. All right, so we're going to start off with requirements and regulations. And first of all, the OSHA regulation 29 CFR 1910 general industry is it's 147. So this covers how we control hazardous energy sources, how we lock those energy sources out, and overall how to eliminate an unexpected startup. So basically, whether that's in maintenance or whatever, how we shut that machine down. There are so many injuries that occur from lockout annually, and they range from electrocution, burns, crushing, cutting, amputations, even fatalities. So that's why we want to make sure that we get everything in place, and we have proper procedures in place, and we know how to lock out that piece of equipment. So what is lockout, and what does that mean? For us in the industry, basically it's a process of physically locking out that energy source and eliminating it, making sure that we don't have any unexpected startups. And I know I've seen many videos over the years and seen some pretty bad incidents as well. So we want to. This is one way to eliminate the energy source, and there are so many energy sources. We'll talk a little bit about that. So what is Tagout? So Tagout is just a placement of a warning tag to identify the equipment that's under maintenance, to help them know not to touch that, not to mess with it, do not operate it, basically leave it alone. Lockout, Tagout energy forms, we've got just basic electrical, we've got hydraulic, pneumatic, water, thermal, and residual energy. So all of these things are things that when we're looking at a piece of equipment, and we've got procedures in place that we're looking at all of these to be sure. And I can honestly tell you from experience, building procedures, say for a new startup, that I would get to a piece of equipment, start writing the procedure, and realize, hey, oh, there's air over here. I didn't realize that. It's not just electrical. Or, hey, there's hot water over here. Or there's, any number of things. So that's the one thing you've really got to look for, is that you look at all the energy sources and how to lock those out. And again, Matt will help us with some of that. Residual energy. So you've got stored potential energy, you've got kinetic, and then you've got thermal. And we'll kind of go through each one of these. Again, we just need to be sure that none of this power is still there, and that we've got it completely released. All right, so starting off with stored and potential, we've got capacitors, we've got batteries, we've got pipes, springs, gravity. I mean, there's just so many things out there on the stored and potential side. Then you've got kinetic, things that are still left over, whether that's a conveyor, whether that's flywheels, pulley systems, shaft mechanisms. Again, we need to go through all of these things as we're building those procedures. Thermal, we've got boilers, steam pipes, welders, all these different things produce heat. And then you've got I guess the far extremes of hot and cold as well. And so those are things that we need to look at. Now, what does a lockout program look like, and what does OSHA say that we have to have? Well, the first thing is we have to have a written program for that facility, and it details, and I always say, when you're developing a written procedure, you have to be site specific. So with that, you have to be sure that you're including everything in your facility. Your written procedures, each piece of equipment should have its own separate lockout procedure. Now, there are times when you might have multiple units that are the exact same, and maybe they're numbered. Say it's fans 1 through 10. Those fans, you can combine them, but you need to have them specified as one, individually, 1 through 10 or whatever. So you can combine. Training, we've got to make sure that all of our employees are trained, and that breaks us down into different types of employees, which are authorized and effective, and we'll get a little bit further in detail there. You've got yearly inspections that need to be taken care of, and then just your equipment requirements and lockout versus tag out. But most folks in the industry, at least from my experience, do both. They lock out and tag out, and that tag really helps when you place it on the lock to tell who the employee is that is actually locking that out. It puts a name to that lock. So, all right. So authorized employee. What is an authorized employee? They are the ones that are actually doing the work. They're the ones that are actually working on that piece of equipment, and they're the ones that's going to be locking out that equipment as well. They conduct the lockout procedures and following those procedures and making sure that they're following that to the letter of the law, so that they don't get hurt or that anybody else gets hurt. And typically it includes, your maintenance staff and other people that service the equipment. So affected employees. These employees are basically the people that are affected by individual locking out a piece of equipment or doing maintenance on a piece of equipment. That's how I kind of keep them separate, is they're just affected by the work that's being done. These are people that, might actually be operators or just work in that area if it's a long piece of equipment or has a conveyor attached to it or what have you. But they also need to know what the lockout equipment looks like. They need to understand the process and the risks associated with lockout tagout. So we call that an awareness level. So required training. So authorized have their own set of training, and affected as well. So affected, I'll start with them, even though it's down the slide a little bit. Their basic goal and what we should do as far as training is an awareness level. They should understand the purpose of lockout, tagout, what it means, what the pieces, whether that's a lock, whether that's a tag, or whether that's a multi-lock. They need to understand, all the things that are involved. As far as an authorized employee, they must be trained in how to recognize hazardous energy, and the methods to basically isolate those. So there's no accidental startups, the types and magnitudes of energy. So whether that's different phases of electrical, whether that's, whatever it is, pneumatic, hydraulic. and understanding the procedures themselves. So they have to understand each procedure, and usually they're involved in creating those procedures as well. And then lastly, they have to each year complete a periodic inspection so that the supervisor or whatever can validate that they understand the procedures, they know how to operate those, and then if there's a weakness there, then they'll have to do retraining. And then, of course, there are other employees in that work area. Those also are considered just affected employees. And with that said, we're going to move on into the retraining if required. So usually retraining is only required if there's job assignment changes. Say one maintenance person goes to another maintenance area or another area of the facility, and they've got different equipment there, so they've got to learn a whole new set of machinery and the procedures to lock those out. Maybe there's a change in the machine. Maybe they're bringing in something new. Maybe they're taking something out. Maybe there's a change in energy control procedure. Maybe they added a piece, and it required some other sort of energy source. Equipment processes, and then periodic inspections also help reveal if there's any deficiencies in the procedures as well, not just for the employee understanding those procedures, but the energy procedure itself. And then retraining must establish the proficiency for that employee. So that's why you do retraining. All right, so lockout procedures, what all is involved with that? So in your written procedures, you have to have, or in your written program, you have to have procedures for each piece of equipment. It's got to identify all the energy sources. And as I said earlier, as I've written them in my past, I've recognized that there's other energy sources. So you've got to do your homework and be sure, because when somebody's working on that piece of equipment, you want to make sure that all those energy sources are neutralized. All right, and it has to have a step-by-step procedure, everything that you need to do to eliminate that energy, and then identify where to lock out those different areas so that everything is completely neutralized. And then, of course, annually, these procedures have to be updated, and you have to review them, and there has to be a certification or sign-off. All right, so what are those steps, and what do they look like? So first of all, when you're going through that procedure and you're getting ready to lock something out, you've got to notify everybody. All the affected employees that are in that area, you need to notify them, let them know, hey, we're getting ready to shut this piece of equipment down, and go through that process. And then next is identify and review the procedure. All right, here's my procedure for this piece of equipment, and this is exactly what I'm going to do to make sure that I've got all of my energy sources locked out and there's no way for this machine to start up. And then, of course, last but not least, is actually go through and shut down the piece of equipment, isolate the energy sources, and then apply your locks and tags for each one of those energy sources. And then last but not least is release that stored energy. Now, once all of that's done, you've got to verify that everything is shut down, that there is no energy there, residual energies. And so you test it, and you make sure that there's no way for it to start up. And then once the work's completed, then you go back through and you verify that everything is in off position so it doesn't just start up. Make sure you're communicating with all the employees that are in that area, and then, of course, bring it online. All right, so this is just an example of what a specific lockout procedure may look like. It has pictures of all the different areas where you can shut down the equipment, where different areas where you can lock out based on the energy sources. And then we also have what we call an alternative procedure. So this is when you're maybe just making minor adjustments to the equipment, and maybe it's a change out or an adjustment or alignment. These procedures is what we look at there. And usually this involves pressing an e-stop or control. Maybe it's a key control or some sort of switch or whatever. But this is just what we call the alternative procedure, just for minor work that needs to be done. All right. So lockout, tag out equipment, I think this is basically, Matt, where I'm going to hand it over to you, and we'll jump right into this.
All right. So I just want to start off with just showing exactly how Brady offers a complete lockout solution. We're able to do this with services, but we also have the software, Link 360, and recently launched Link 360 Process Plus software. And I can get into a little bit more detail about that later. But then we also obviously have the padlocks and devices, which we will be, identifying more in this presentation. But then we also have integrated solutions with our printers, where you can do print on demand and create your own labels with the Brady printers. So other than the moral standpoint, why should companies care about OSHA, lockout tagout? So OSHA has openly stated they are cracking down on lockout tagouts. And last year, lockout tagout was the #6 most cited violation across all types of violations. And within that, the top 5 lotto violations are energy control procedures, so just not having them properly created. The program as a whole, maybe they don't even have a program installed, or just not properly installed. Periodic inspections, as Chuck said, you have to keep checking your lockout procedures. Improper training, and not properly recognizing hazardous energies. And Chuck touched on this too. Devices and padlocks, they prevent pushing, turning levers, flipping switches, valves, and ultimately they protect employees from loss of limb or even life in worst case scenarios. So just a high level of the OSHA lockout standard. The actual standard is OSHA 1910.147. And some of the most important parts of this is that OSHA says that devices must withstand the environmental conditions. So you can't have a cheap lock out in the Texas oil fields where it's 100 degrees and it literally just starts to melt, or in a cold storage and the lock freeze. The device has to be specifically made for those environments and be able to withstand those types of environments. They also have to be standardized in color, in shape, and size. So you can't just have a whole different, mixture of sizes and different shapes and of locks and other devices. They have to be able to be recognizable by affected and authorized employees. And then also they have to be sturdy enough, specifically around tags. OSHA says that they must have a 50-pound pull force. So they have to be able to withstand a force pulled on them of 50 pounds. And all of our tags comply to that. And then each lock and tag must identify who the employee applied it and warn them of hazardous conditions.
And Matt, I'm going to kind of jump in there a little bit on this. So to give an example of the color and the shape and the size, a good example of this is, say your maintenance folks, they have all yellow, red, or yellows, maybe blue colors. Your contractors might have green. And then, of course, if you've got a what they call, where you've got a piece of equipment that's locked out for good, or you're not going to be using it, sometimes that would be used as red, and only your high level management would have access to that. So that's just an example of the color, shape, and size to kind of help people understand why that is, and usually that's stated in your written program as well. So
yes, that is 100% correct. If you were to pull out your phone right now and scan this QR code while I'm talking, with our Link 360 software, we give the ability to place QR codes onto the equipment itself, and that will actually pull up the procedure instead of having a paper procedure on the equipment itself. So it eliminates the need to have people run around with paper. And then when you update the procedure, you change it on your computer, and whatever the latest version of that procedure is will pull up on that piece of equipment through that QR code. And this is only works with our Link 360 software. And then just another couple tidbits on it. As I said, it eliminates the need for paper checklists and constantly having to change them out. But then it also gives you a better insight into what is happening on your manufacturing floor in terms of lockout tagout. You can actually know what time your team applies locks as soon as it's uploaded, and you can see how old the procedure is when you need to start to update again. Confined space, we're seeing OSHA cracking down on confined spaces as year over year deaths have been rising around this. So confined spaces are defined as large enough so that employee can be completely entered into the space itself, but it also has to have a limited means for entry or exit. So it can't just have a normal door that you walk in. It has to be a restricted area with a harder means of getting in and out. And it can't be designed for continuous employee occupancy. So the conference room is not a confined space. And then there's also other confined spaces that require permits. So if a confined space was to require a permit, it must contain a potential for hazardous atmospheres. So if you're in a gas holding tank of sorts, the fumes from the gas will be hazardous to an employee, so you need a permit there. If the material has the potential for engulfing an entrance, so an example I always like to use is like on farms with those big corn silos. If an employee was standing on the corn in the silo, you could easily get sucked into the corn, and then lots of bad things happen. So you need a permit to enter those as well. And then also the type of configuration of the space itself. If it has inward converging walls or the floor slopes downward and tapers into a smaller cross section, that is also a permit required confined space.
And Matt, I'm gonna add a little bit to this as well. So with confined space, with the top 3 items large enough that an employee can enter, has limited means of exit and entry, and is not designated continuous occupancy, all 3 of those have to be met to be a confined space. However, on the permit required confined space, only one of those items has to be met for it to be a permit required confined space. So that's something to also to note as well.
So for Brady products, we have a couple options for confined spaces. So when they're not in use, there needs to be a sign identifying that it's a confined space and it's permit only. And it has to be a quote unquote reasonable barrier. And so we can accomplish this with our confined space covers on the right and also our manhole signs on the left. The manhole signs on the left are extendable. So they fit a very wide range of entryways. These are popular for entryways such as like into the sewer systems. We see them in chemical, oil, and gas. They slide it into the holding tanks. The covers specifically I want to touch on is that we are finding, especially in chemical, oil, and gas, that these customers are stating that these are hard to find. There's not a lot of companies that offer these. And so you'll find when you go on site, they have very old, dirty, sometimes ripped confined space covers. And so we are one of few that do supply this. And we're also looking to expand this category in the future.
You want me to go back up to the other slide to kind of show them in place there?
Okay.
The covers. Yeah.
Yeah, and the one on the right is an example of like a sloping converging walls or a floor as well. So that would be a permit required entryway.
Yeah, that's a feed bin. All right. Mm-hmm. There you go.
So at a high level, this is what Brady offers. I'm not going to go into detail of every single one of these, but you would be here for about 3 hours and nobody wants to hear me talk that long. But we really do supply everything that you need for a lockout program, and all of these are OSHA compliant. We design them specifically around OSHA regulations. And so one of the biggest, most important category and that we're most well known for is the electrical lockouts. So these are anything that has to do with electricity, obviously. So these are anything from fuse lockouts. We have full panel lockouts that is unique to Brady on the bottom left there. This way, you're able to lock out the entire panel without having to lock out specific breakers in the panel or having to take a long cable and just wrap it around the panel itself. Then we also have switch lockouts, push button, so e-stop lockouts, and battery lockouts specific for forklifts and other vehicles. And one thing to call out too is on the very top there, we have a circuit breaker reference guide. So there are so many different brands and models of circuit breakers. So this, you will be able to just find which circuit breaker by brand and part number, and then it'll have a cross-reference to a Brady product that is applicable for that specific breaker. And so that can be found on the Brady ID website, on the bottom of the product page, but also on the landing page as well.
And these come real in handy. They're really handy when, especially if you've got more like a warehouse or something where you don't have specific pieces of equipment that have lockouts right there on the piece of equipment. Everything is done by a breaker. So these come in really handy, and I can honestly say that Brady has this down to a science.
In addition to just our electrical stuff, we have so many other products. Again, I have a couple that I'm going to talk about, but not going to everything. But we have cable lockouts. So in the middle, second from the left on the top, there's the retractable cable lockout. So you don't need to have an 8-foot cable just hanging out there. It'll retract into itself. We have gas cylinder lockouts, valve lockouts, forklifts, as I said. We have really a wide variety of products really for any sort of application, and we are continuously innovating products. In the past 2 months, we've actually launched 3 different electrical lockout devices, and we just continue to innovate and develop new and improved products. And then we also have products like the stations, so board stations and cabinets, where you can store all of your padlocks and devices in one area on your manufacturing floor. It's a way to help organize your devices. You can have ones for specific areas in the manufacturing floor. You can have one just for the general. Really, however you have your lockout program set up, we have a board or a cabinet for that as well. And then we have bags and pouches and carriers for large sets of locks too. One of the most popular devices that we have, and many customers have, is gate valves. So we have 3 different styles for these. We have a collapsible version on the upper left there. It's collapsible, it's easy to store if you have a large product set. And then we also have an adjustable on the bottom left there. Instead of having to carry 6 different sizes or however many you want, you can just have one size that will be able to be used for any sort of valve size that you have. And then we also have just the regular fixed clamshell version, and these come in 5 different colors. So kind of like how Chuck said, that a certain color might be used for a certain group. There might be an operator color, there might be the supervisor color, so you can easily identify who is locking that isolation point out. And just to note, we have tutorial videos on Brady ID, and these are on the bottom of every single product page that we have. So if you are wondering how to apply a device, you can go to Brady ID, but you can also go to our YouTube channel, or even just searching the device name with Bradyans in front of it. And so like an all-purpose cable lockout by Brady, it'll be the first one that'll come up on YouTube as well. Customers love these. They're super informative and easy to use. And so group lockout is a big one. So I just want to cover some of the best practices for group lockout. So when does group lockout make the most sense? So the example I like to use is, so if you have 5 people that are looking to lock onto 12 isolation points, that is about 60 locks that you need. And that's a lot of locks for any company. So instead of having to use 60 locks and put 12 locks on every single isolation point, you can use a group lock box. So how this would work is that the procedure supervisor would place his or her lock onto those 12 isolation points. So there's only one lock on every isolation point. And then the supervisor will place the keys to those locks into the lockbox itself, and then place one singular lock for the supervisor on the latch of the box. So the box cannot be opened until the supervisor takes their lock off of the box. And then those 5 authorized employees will lock their one lock onto the box itself. So instead of using 60 locks, you're using about 18 locks. And that's a way to cut down on the amount of locks that you have. And it always requires, maintenance. You end up having to cut locks and replace them. It's just a way more manageable system. And then, so another big thing that OSHA really emphasizes is working under somebody else's lock. This gives employees a false sense of security. And so what this is so say Chuck is working on a piece of equipment, and I tell Chuck, like, oh, I just need to adjust this part of the machine. Don't unlock your lock until I'm done. And so I go and work on the machine. Maybe I step away to go grab a piece of a tool or something, and Chuck sees I'm not there anymore. So he just assumes that I'm done with my work, and he goes and takes off his lock, and then I walk back and start doing work again, and then there's no locks on the box, so the piece of equipment is energized again. And that's where people get hurt. Another big one is during shift changes. So same example, Chuck's working on a piece of equipment. I'm coming in to take over the procedure as I'm starting my shift. I have to place my own lock on that lockbox. So I have to be standing next to Chuck as he takes his lock off of the box, and then place my own lock with my name on that lock specifically. So that way there's no miscommunication or any confusion of who is working on that procedure. And then abandoned locks are a very big one as well. There has to be a separate written procedure specifically around abandoned locks. So before the supervisor is to cut off the lock with a bolt cutter, they must confirm that the employee is not in the facility, or at least make a quote unquote reasonable effort to confirm that the employee is not in the facility. This happens a lot, and it's a big deal when companies have to cut off locks, as you can imagine the miscommunications that could happen.
And just to add to that, Matt, because I've been in this situation many times, is, your written program should include, when a shift change, it should also, we call it emergency removal of a lot where somebody is left. And usually, especially on emergency removal, there's usually a form that you're going to have to fill out, and it is in detail of all the steps that you need to take, and whether it's a phone call, whatever. And the last, just to be sure that that person is not on site, but also to confirm that it is okay to remove that lock. So just wanted to kind of add that most of this stuff should be in your written program, and usually we'll have forms to be filled out just to document the process.
And to assist customers with the group lockout procedures, we offer wide range of products. We have different kinds of lockout hats. So we have just the standard aluminum one, but we also have non-conductive versions. So they're made of nylon for electrical applications. We also have ones that serve as a tag, as well, as you can see in the middle left there. And then we have different size lock boxes. So we have wall mounted versions, we have portable versions, we have small, large, and then we also have permit display cases where an employee can sign out a permit or apply for a permit as well.
And really those boxes like you're talking about, that where you have a permanent station, is, usually your maintenance people carry around one or two locks, but this is, say you've got a large complex, these will be in certain areas. They can grab a lock, or grab a lock and a key and use it, and then just put it right back in place, so they don't just have to carry around 6 or 7 different, locks. So it comes in very handy for that.
So we also offer the ignore the title on that one. This one's all about tags. So we offer a wide variety of different tags. So we have two different versions of polyester. So we have a heavy duty and the economy version. So the polyester tags will be used in environments that are very dusty or greasy. They get employees have grease in their hands, and if it was a standard cardstock tag, it would ruin the tag itself. So it's a way to keep the tag identifiable or readable and not fall apart. We also have a tough wash version, so that's specific for the food and beverage industry. So in food and bev, they are constantly washing down the machines, and they don't like to take the tags off of the machines while they're washing them down. So that specific tag is designed to stay on the tag and withstand a pressure washing or other wash downs without having to remove that. And then we also have a version of that that's metal detectable. As everybody knows, metal detectable is very important in food and bev. And then we have self-laminating photo tags. So on the upper right there, we have custom tags that you can actually print employees' faces on. So it's an easier way to identify who is in charge of that device. And then we also have perforated stub tags. So we'll see this a lot in the process industry. So these are used in group lockout procedures. And so, like I said, when they have the authorized employees, they will have their assignment in that procedure of what to do. And once they're complete with their aspect of the procedure, they'll rip off the bottom part called the stub of the tag and place it into the lockbox. And once everybody's done with the procedure, the supervisor will open the lockbox, count all the stubs, and if all the stubs are there, they will go and unlock the equipment itself. But if they're missing a stub, they will have to go investigate who either did not turn the stub or what part of the procedure was not complete. It'll trigger a lot of different things on that. So it's another safety mechanisms for customers. And as I mentioned, we have those custom tags, and you can use a Brady printer to make those custom tags with people's faces, or just to hand or type in the info needed. You can also use our Brady printers to print the isolation points on the equipment. So you use the E1 in the procedure as the lockout point. You place this device on lockout point E1. And so you can do that all straight from the Brady printer on your site without having to order them and wait for them to ship to you as well. So when you're talking to a customer, what are some questions to try to get them to talk about their program and kind of get down to what they need? So some questions I always like to ask customers is, how are you managing your lotto program? Are you updating it constantly? Kind of like how Chuck said, it needs to be looked at all the time. And how do you manage your locks and devices? Are they stored at the equipment itself? Do you have a lockout station or an area where you keep them? And how do you know that you have enough devices? If you have multiple procedures going on at the same time, do you actually have enough devices to do multiple procedures at once? And then also, what type of equipment do you have in your facility? What kind of isolation points are you having? Are you labeling them? How many do you have? And then how are you handling your procedure list? Where are they located? So these are just probing questions to dig down into what these customers actually need. And also, how often are you performing your equipment maintenance, and who's in charge? This will help you understand Are they using the supervisors? Are these just discrete single equipment lockout procedures? And then again, just to identify more opportunity. Getting into padlocks, we kind of touched on this slightly, but the employees must have exclusive control of their lockout tagout devices, specifically the padlock. So this is accomplished with the one key, one lock, one person. So OSHA has stated that each lock should have one key to it, giving one employee control over that lock. And again, as Chuck said, they would be standardized and distinguishable, and the lock must identify the person using it. On the other side of the lock, we provide labels to put the employee's name on it. And at Brady, we have 3 different programs that we offer with our locks. We have the safety lockout padlock. In September, all of these locks will be having a color matched key to them. You see on the bottom left, it's in the shape of a Brady B. And we're also adding 4 additional colors in September with some new styles as well. We have the hybrid program in the middle, and I'll explain what that is a little later. And then we also have our Safe Key series, which we offer a stock and a custom offering in that as well. So you hear me talk about stock versus custom. So all of our stocking programs, you're going to have 2 keying options. You're going to have a key to like option, so where all the locks itself will be able to open each other, and you have a key different option where they cannot open each other. And if you wanted a master key or a grandmaster key, you would automatically get sent to the custom locks. And then along with every custom order, Brady provides a free service of key charting. So we'll actually keep track of all the key codes in a customer's system. So there's two important reasons for that. So say you have 1,000 key different locks, we keep track of every used key code. And then later when you want to order 1,000 new key different locks, we will make sure that none of your new ordered custom locks can open your already existing locks that you have. And then we also offer engraving with our custom locks. These engravings used for multiple different reasons. They can be used to identify the lock for tracking purposes. You can identify a group that is using it or a specific person. And some companies also just like to put their logo on their locks, just for a pride thing or a morale type thing. So there's various reasons to have engraving on the locks. And so, like I said, key different locks, they can't open each other. These are perfect for simple lockout applications. If you have a smaller number of isolation points where a group lockout procedure doesn't seem as reasonable, and you can get key different locks through our stock and custom programs. And then key to like is the opposite, where all the locks can open each other, and these are used usually in larger process lockouts when you're using those group lockout procedures and multiple isolation points, and again, stock and custom for those. And then the master key. So a master key is a key that can open multiple other locks. So if you have a set of key or 100 key different locks, you can assign a master key to those locks, and that master key can open every single one of those key different locks. Or you can have multiple sets of key to like sets, and that master key can open that as well. And again, that's only through our custom locks that you can get that. And then we also offer a grand master key, which is the same as a master key, but now that grand master key can open sets of multiple master key systems. And so this is usually used when a company or EHS manager or whoever has multiple locations. So one master key system might be used for location A, and then location B will have another master key system. But then that EHS manager will be able to open those locks from both locations with just one key. And then we have 4 different shackle materials. We have the steel, which is the most common. It's mostly the all-purpose. This is by far the most popular style. We have the nylon or plastic shackle, and these are non-conductive, non-sparking, which is the most important part, non-sparking, and they're used specifically for electrical lockouts. And then we also have a cable shackle, which is ideal for tighter spaces where maybe it's harder to get a regular shackle on, and they can be used for electrical lockouts, but they're also used for valves where you can literally just place the lock onto the valve and wrap it around the pipe, and then you have your valve locked out instead of having to use a gate valve lockout. And then we also have the aluminum shackle, which is a higher durability than the nylon, but it's also lower weight. We use these with our compact, smaller locks. And so we also have 3 options. We have the nylon body, which is non-conductive. So those would be used for your electrical lockouts. They are key retaining. So when they're unlocked, you cannot take the key out. And then we have the aluminum. So these are way more durable. They're corrosion resistant. So in harsher environments, chemical, oil, gas, any outdoor type of applications, if it's dusty like sawmills use aluminum locks, that's the choice for you. We have steel locks. I have an asterisk next to it because we are exiting the steel lock, and that is due to the fact that aluminum serves the same purpose, and we have done testing and they stand up the same. And also steel locks are mostly seen as a shop lock, meaning that multiple people have a key to them, and mostly seen around security applications. So we are not a security company, we are a safety company. But we do have a large inventory of these as well. So you can still order these, just be aware that in the future we will be leaving that as well.
That's a good point, Matt. I never recognized that, but those other ones are more security, or they look more like you would use them for a locker or something like that, or a door, but I will say in most of my career, we've always used aluminum. Being in the food industry, those just hold up very well. So
Yeah. And like I said, we have 2 different sizes. We have the compact, so they're used a lot for electrical lockouts and smaller spaces, and they come in nylon and aluminum. And then we have the standard size, which is nylon, aluminum, and those steel. And those are used across the board for many different applications. And I'm not going to name off all of these, as you can see, but this is what our I know nobody wants to hear me talk that much. But these our stocking program. We've created a stocking program with the high movers, most popular colors and sizes. So we have singles, 6, 12, and 24 packs. We're key to like and key different. And we have the plastic shackles and nylon body and aluminum body. And like I said, in September, we're gonna have 9 color options for these. Currently, we have 5. And then so the hybrid program, this is extremely unique to Brady. We're the only one to offer this. And so the reason why it's called a hybrid program is that it's halfway between a stock program and a custom program. So in this program, you can only order standard size nylon and aluminum steel shackle locks. Those are the only options that you have. And so under each color, we have a set of unique key codes under it. So for the red, we have 100 key codes, yellow is 50 key codes, and then blue, green, and orange is 25 key codes. And a customer will use these key codes to build out their own lockout program and do their own charting system through a stock program. So they do not need to submit a custom order and then wait 18 days to get their lock. They ship same day or next day, and they can do their own charting system. So these are targeted towards small to medium size companies. If you want 200 key different locks, you have to go to custom. We don't have enough key codes for that. That's not what this was for. And the way to identify what that key code is by looking at the catalog number. So on the bottom there, you see those four letters are identified the body style. So SD is standard, the PL is plastic or nylon, and then aluminum would be AL, and then the color, and then the number is the shackle clearance height, so 38 millimeters or 1.5 inch shackle, and then ST means steel, and then the last 3 digits is the key code. So if you wanted a key to, or key different 10 key different locks, you get 1001, and then you get another 002, 003, all the way up to 10. You have your key different. If you want 10 keyed alike sets, you can get 10 of the red key code 025. And one thing to note is that key code, the red nylon key code 001 will open yellow 001 as well. So if you want key different, the colors have to have different key codes between them. And then we also have our safe key. So this is our patented lock that we have, and it comes with some additional benefits to a standard padlock. We have the 3 shackle options to it: the steel, aluminum, and nylon. The thing that makes this so unique is the added safety to it. So these are energy isolated, meaning that if the shackle is energized from the lockout point, the key will not be energized. So you can still unlock that lock even though the shackle is energized. And we accomplish this by using our non-conductive ceramic ball bearings there. Most locks have steel ball bearings, allowing energy to flow all the way to the key. So it's another safety measure for employees to have confidence that they will not get hurt while removing a lock. And then we also have the unique keyway. We use a linear key on it, and this provides additional key codes for this. So we have 100,000 key code options, where competition usually has about 60,000. And then we have the color match key for all of these locks that we supply. And then compared to Master Lock, SafeKey has an upper hand. So if you look at a Master Lock nylon lock, it is actually 2 molded plastic pieces molded together. And I have actually witnessed someone just squeeze the Master Lock and break at the seam. And I've actually thrown it on the ground hard enough and it'll just come apart. SafeKey is made of 1 plastic piece, and to get at the cylinder, there's a piece that slides in and it's screwed in, so the bottom will drop out of it. But it holds up way better compared to the Master Lock version. They also have, our Master Lock also has the generic metal keys, and then the fewer combinations. The combinations are important because of the key codes, or the master key and grand master key. So if you have 1 master key, you can only fit 15, or under safe key, fit 15,000 key codes under that 1 master key. But if you have 2 to 5 master keys, then that number drops down to 6,000. And then if you have 6 to 25, that number goes down to 3,000. And then above, once you go beyond that, you drop down to about 600 or 300 key code options. So if you have about 60,000 key code options, you have a lot less master and grandmaster keys that you can add to that system. So that is why that part is very important to customers. And then this is what our stocking program for SafeKey looks like. It's very similar to our safety lock, the single and 6 packs that we provide, and then the shackle options, and we have them in stock for compact and standard size locks as well. And then again, we offer 9 colors for all of the options. And again, note steel will be going away eventually. And then lastly, when submitting a SafeKey custom order, there's some required information, such as obviously the basics, the number of padlocks, padlock body type, the keying options, shackle material, and then the engraving. And then for ordering, we're going to need the quotes, the engraving, data, end user data, and then all this takes about 18 business days to get to the customer once the PO is submitted. And then lastly, just a few questions to ask your customer to dig down into what this customer actually needs and understand what their how they operate with their locks. Is what type of padlocks do you have? Are they a key different, a key to like? What type, etc. Those basic questions. How many authorized or do authorized users have their own assigned padlocks? So that's kind of like, do you have the engraving for specific employees, or is it a group? How do you use the padlocks to identify those groups? Is it color? Is it by label, tag, however? And then how often are padlocks lost or cut? So is charting important to them? Do they not need charting? These are just questions you can ask to dig down and find those answers.
All right. Well, Matt, we appreciate it, and appreciate you covering those things. And if you have any questions, you can give us a call. If for any reason you need a safety site assessment, if you want to use the little code you see up here, feel free to put your camera over that, go with it. Again, Arbill's been around for 80 years. So, we've helped many in the industry, different clients, whether it's government, municipalities, all different types. So schedule a time with us if you need anything. If you have any questions, this is my email here. And if you've got any questions real quick and you want to put it in the chat, please do. We've got just a couple of minutes left, so throw something in the chat real quick. We'll answer that. And also in the chat, there is a survey. If you will, please get that filled out as well. And we appreciate that feedback as well, so that we can make these webinars better. All right. Any other questions? If you will, like I said, put that in the chat. We'll give a few minutes to see if anything pops up in the chat. And otherwise, we will finish this out. We appreciate your time today.